Good morning. My name is Al Bridges, and I'd like to welcome you to the Body Talk program. Today is Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023, the day after the Cleveland Browns were defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers. For all you sports fans out there, that's going to be my only sports take today. Defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and let's say prayers to Nick Chubb and the other players who were injured.
Yes.
Nick Chubb is definitely done for the season. He injured the same knee he injured in college.
Yeah.
Like again, it's pretty severe. Again, you listen to the Body Talk program and at the No Stack Radio Network. And I hope everyone had a great, fun, safe, and super fantastic weekend. First and foremost, let's continue to celebrate Black History every day throughout the year, 365 or 366 days a year. And today we have a special guest. We're going to be discussing growing up in the Jim Crow era with a gentleman who actually experienced growing up in the Lynchburg, Virginia Jim Crow time period. And if you're a regular listener, I'm encouraging you to pick the phone up, call, text your friends, family members, and tell them to listen to the program. Over the last 2-3 weeks, I've been doing a series about diversity, inclusion, and equity. I changed the way the acronym is. Most people call it DEI. I call it DIE for die. And it's going to be an interesting program. I think everybody will enjoy that. In the second hour, we're going to talk about the second letter, inclusion. And we're going to take maybe 10 to 15 minutes prior to that to talk about PB Cleveland, about what's really happening here in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio. So the only thing we're waiting for is to make a connection with Mr. Hughes, our guest. And as he is connecting with us, I'm going to do a quick Black History moment. And it's really, most of you, I hope, are familiar with Gila Lack. She's the sister who was harvested. Her cells were harvested at Johns Hopkins University Hospital. And when her cells were taken, the physicians and researchers noticed there was something special about her, about the cells. And without her and or her family's permission, several pharmaceuticals and scientific medical advances were made just from harvesting her cells. Her son, Lawrence Lack, her only living surviving son, who's 86 years old, passed away. And he made it his mission to stand up for his mother and his family. Of course, the pharmaceutical industry made billions of dollars from her cells. Medical researchers made great strides and names for themselves, several of them winning grand prizes or prizes. And about, maybe 3-4 months ago, finally the case was settled. The amount is unknown. I'm going to take a conservative guess. It had to be in the triple digit billions. It might even have been in the billions. But Lawrence Lacks passed away. And the one thing he did from the day that he found out after his mother passed in October, stood up. We have our guest on the line, and I would like to welcome Mr. Wheeler Hughes. Can you hear me okay, Wheeler?
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Okay, there he is.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mr. Hughes. How are you?
Pretty good.
That's good. And I'm going to get right into our interview because I don't want to tie up too much of your time, although you said you would give me 8 hours today. But
That's true.
That's true. And as we move along here, I want you to be as candid as you have always been, and especially during our conversations. And we don't, and I know you and I don't curse. I'm not worried about those words, but if you have to mention the N word, please feel free to say N. That's one word
Okay.
I don't use on the air.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
let's start this way. Let's
Okay.
discuss your academic achievements and professional accomplishments. Share with the audience what you've done.
Basically, I'm a 75-year-old retired healthcare director and consultant. I spent 30 years in the managed care section of healthcare, and in doing so, I was dealing with developing networks. These are computer networks, these are networks, physical networks for physicians, clinics, and hospitals. In doing so, I typically would have 3 to 5 people working for me, going out, negotiating contracts, and putting together these networks. I was heavily involved. Sorry?
Oh, go ahead, Wheeler. Go ahead.
I was heavily involved with getting the contracts negotiated with the larger entities, whether it was the University of Nebraska, Georgetown National Institute, University of Indiana, and so forth. We put these deals together. They weren't, as I would say, negotiations. They were more putting together a deal that was satisfactory for both parties. Everyone came out feeling good. No one felt like they were taken advantage of. And in doing so, we basically tried to save the healthcare consumer additional costs. We were trying to reduce the cost that they would have to pay in doctor's offices, when they went to ERs, when they went to the hospitals for inpatient stays. That was our objective, was to reduce the cost of healthcare for the patients of the specific health plans that I may have been working for at the time. I worked for some of the large ones, Aetna, Cigna. From my consulting perspective, I spent a bit of time working for United Healthcare, but it was specific to TRICARE, which is the military medical system, healthcare system. And we developed with United Health that contract from Iowa to the West Coast. That was the portion of the United States that United had won in their bid for the TRICARE contract. We did so very efficiently, and even after that, I continued to get phone calls from United, some of the people that worked for United to participate in a variety of other contracts, again, which I did. So that's basically my professional life.
Okay.
And then personal life, I've got a granddaughter at 9, going on 36, I think, today. And pretty happy as a old guy would be at this age. And I don't know, that's it as far as personal and professional accomplishments.
Well,
What else would you like to know?
well, you listen to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network, and we have our special guest on the line, Mr. Wheeler Hughes, who will discuss growing up in the Jim Crow era. And one of the things I'm going to share with the audience, Wheeler, one of the terms that we hear bannered on the media, and more so in Cleveland, Ohio, is this thing called transparency, okay? And I think, to be transparent, I know you. I've known you going on probably about 30 some odd years now. And I will say this, and I want the audience to understand, Wheeler is one of the most humble individuals you'll ever meet. And I mean that seriously. I'm just not saying it because you're on the line. And I say you're humble because you omitted a couple professional accomplishments that we both were somewhat involved in. You and I met in the Washington, D.C. area, and Wheeler was a consultant along with myself, and it was 4 of us, just 4. We built the largest PPO network in the country. It was called America's Health Plan. And Wheeler, I learned some things from Wheeler. Wheeler learned some things from me, but I learned more from him, so I'll give you credit for that, Wheeler. You built this network because you led it. The other 2 gentlemen, I'm going to be candid with the audience, didn't do a damn thing. was you and I. We
Sure.
built this network using the fax and FedEx.
Right.
And it was ultimately, America's Health Plan was ultimately sold, it was leased to every health plan around the country because it was the largest. It was a national PPO network. But it was ultimately sold to Principal, and the CEO at the time was a gentleman by the name of Ken Lindy. And the other entity you left out was this other company, I think you did mention Anthem. Wheeler built Anthem of Florida. Wheeler had the West Coast responsibility, and yours truly had the East Coast responsibility. And within, I think it was about 18 months, give or take, Wheeler, if I recall, Anthem became the second largest health plan by membership in the state of Florida. So when I want that to come out because it's important. Everything you said and you do say is true. And the other thing that Wheeler left out, he was on his way to becoming a scratch golfer. No, you were. And you know, we had our fair share of matches on the course. And I will admit to the audience, I never won. But that's okay. So let's go back here. Where were you reared in the high school name that you attended?
Okay, I was reared in Lynchburg, Virginia, and went to Dunbar High School. Dunbar High School is now Dunbar Middle School because of changes and integration and things that happened after 1970. Mm-hmm. While I was there, Dunbar High School was all black. So was the VIA, which was the Virginia Interscholastic Association, which simply meant that all high schools in Virginia in the conference were all black. So our whole conference, the Western District of the VIA, included schools from Danville, Roanoke, whereas Martinsville, Halifax, Campbell County, Amherst, those areas surrounding the central and southwestern portion of the state. And Western District has a long history of excellence in basketball. And as a freshman in high school, I ended up making the high school varsity. Therefore, by the time 1966 rolled around, I was the old guy on the team with 4 letters. And during that particular year, we were winning the Western District Championship. We all went to different state tournament, won the state championship, and after winning that, there was something at that time called the NIA, which was a national invitational tournament held this particular year in Montgomery, Alabama. So we headed down that way to Atlanta by train. And of course, when we got to Atlanta with the change trains for Atlanta to go over to Montgomery, and the train ride from Atlanta to Montgomery was eerily quiet. On the way down to Atlanta, we had a good time. We were walking around, joking, having fun. The whole tenor changed from the trip over to Montgomery because we knew what was going on, what had gone on in that particular area. So we were very quiet getting over there and going over to Alabama State University for that particular tournament. We ended up coming in second in that particular tournament, which basically gave me the opportunity to be seen by some national Division I schools. Ended up speaking to a recruiter from Kansas State University, and Germany, Don Matuzak. And then after that tournament, by the time I got home, I received a letter from a now Hall of Fame coach. His name was Tex Winter. And within a week, I got a call from his assistant coach. His name was Bill Guthridge. Bill Guthridge was my freshman coach. And after that, Bill Guthridge left and moved to University of North Carolina, where he was assistant to Dean Smith. And then after Dean Smith retired, Bill Guthridge became the head coach at the University of North Carolina. So I have a connection with some big names in the coaching profession. But back to high school, uh, the community, just loved it. During our games, we had 2,000 people in the gymnasium. By the mid of our senior year, which is 66, we could look in the stands and there were white individuals in the stands. They were football and basketball players from EC Glass High School, which was the all-white high school, almost all-white high school, other than two people, which I'll get to in a few minutes. They came over to watch us play, and I didn't realize, I didn't know it. One of my co-players did. He was a friend with one of the captains of the UC Glass basketball team. But so it was senior year was a different time in my life. But at the same time, my coach, Harry Waters, brought me into his office and decided that he was going to send out information and statistics on me to Division One schools, something that he'd never done before. He said, I don't have any idea what this will accomplish, or it will accomplish anything. And within 2 weeks, letters started to come in. Just so you know, because my senior year, I only needed 4 hours. So you have to be school first, so I had 2 study halls. And during those study halls, I had mail deliveries every day. From a single piece to 8 pieces being brought over. We took a look at, of course, I got those to my coach. We reviewed all of them. Schools were UCLA, Arizona, Kansas, Villanova, University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school, Connecticut, number of Division I schools. The strange thing is that I didn't have a reference point. I knew no one that had gone to Division I. There was no one in my family that had, but there was no one in my hometown, black or white, that had gone to a Division I school for basketball. I had basically no support in that particular area, so being the first isn't as exciting as a lot of people think it is. It puts quite a bit of pressure, but you don't have the support group that kids have today. Let me put it that way. Today they have teachers, parents that have the experience, but in 56 there was no one with that particular experience. So it was different. But high school was fun. Everybody liked us. We weren't allowed groups, though. What we call work professional. We often take, when we went to play for schools on a Saturday, did they sleep well on Friday night? Because we averaged 92 points a game in high school. And these are 8-minute quarters. And 92 points a game is a lot. And we often wondered to ourselves, are they able to sleep on Friday night knowing we're coming into town on Saturday? We typically get a chuckle of that, but we really no, they didn't sleep well at all. So high school was fun, it was trying, and with that going on, there was still state laws reflecting Jim Crow. Don't know if you want to talk about that now, Al?
Well, let me,
But, go ahead.
Leo, let me just interject a couple questions here
Sure.
really quick. You mentioned the train ride from Atlanta to Birmingham. When you rode Montgomery, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Montgomery. When you were on that
Yeah.
train, was that an integrated train or was it a segregated train?
Oh, well, all the trains back then were segregated. So, but we had basically, because we left in the middle of the night, we had a whole train car to ourselves. And as a group, we didn't get on the thing in front of it. In fact, we got onto a train car and nobody was on it but us. Black or white, other than the team. Simply because there were no people traveling to Atlanta that time of night. heading south. So no, yes, yes, it was, yes, it was tailgate, but at that particular trip, it wasn't something we noticed
Now,
because there was no one on the train.
and you're listening to the Body Talk program on the Most Active Radio Network. We have our special guest, Mr. Willard Hughes, just talking about growing up in the Jim Crow, Lynchburg, Virginia area. Let's go back for just a minute. Here's, I'm not being insulted to you. Here's this black kid receiving mail at school from colleges, you know, the small schools, UCLA, USC. I mean, you know, those were really small schools. I've been saying that facetiously, of course. And you mentioned your team averaged 92 points a game in 8-minute quarters. And if you could just share, you once told me a story. You shared a story with me about a kid that was on your team. He was like 6'8", 6'9".
Yes.
And he didn't start.
No.
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Lawrence Davis, he was younger. He wasn't in the class of '66. He was on that team, but he was a couple of years younger.
Mm-hmm.
And as the season, when he first hit there, Combsley, this, that, the other, we all worked with him. Some of the other older players got on him a little more tough than I thought was necessary. I interjected, got on him. I thought in a pace that he would understand and would appreciate being treated like a human being and not like a subject. And as the year went on, he got better and better and better. But in the beginning of the season, when we go out to warm up, we had, 6'3", 6'2", 6'1". I was 6'1". Gardner Sergeant was 6'1". The sixth man was 5'10". Forwards were at 6'3" and 6'4". And we were about to warm up, and 9 out of the 12 players could dunk the ball. And of course, Davis, 6'9", he could certainly dunk it easily. And we go away, and crowds were oohing and awing as he would come in, slam it with 2 hands, 1 hand, whatever he said. And game started, and he sat on the bench. Because we started 6'1", 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". And we played a pressing defense and a fast break offense. Therefore, 92 points per game. But as the season went on, we got better, more confident defensively, and then all of a sudden, 3/4 of the season prior to the district tournament, again, not starting, but coming in, becoming a defensive group, blocking shots, getting rebounds. I think in one game he ended up having about 19 rebounds. But his development was gradual, but it worked for him. And the key is just schools that we played in when starting 5 was announced, they just kind of got quiet, 6'9" guys.
Now,
Needless to say, after about 6 minutes, they realized we didn't need 6'9", what we want to do to that team.
and your high school athletic exploits are great, and we'll go back to them as we move along. Because I want the audience to understand really what you did in high school. Do you?
Sure.
The one thing that I want to bring out, and I don't want to make this an all athletic show.
Sure.
You grew up in Lynchburg, which was Jim Crow, and again, share with the audience your experience of going to the movies. You shared that story with me one day when you went to the movie theater. When you guys and girls would go to the movie theater. What was that like?
Well, first of all, the only movie theater we would go to would be the Black Theater in town, which was about 6 blocks from my home.
Okay.
And of course, there were no first run movies there. We weren't allowed to go to the Warner Theater or the other theaters that were, well, basically white. So no first run movies. We didn't have any restaurants to go to. We back up one. First time I went to a pizza when I was in Richmond, Virginia was after my sophomore year in college when I came home for the summer. And friends that had stayed in them said, well, let's go to pizza. I'm going, really? And we did, but that didn't exist. So I was going up. No hotels, no bowling, no swimming. My junior year, newspapers stopped covering Dunbar Athletics because we had protested, and the protest had begun. We stopped riding the city bus because we almost went out of business. We walked. We got rides with neighbors and friends. Soda fountains in large pharmacies. We stopped getting our drugs in those pharmacies. We all went to one pharmacy, Jackson Drug, downtown Lynchburg, small drugstore, black pharmacist was one. Their business exploded, of course. Department stores we stopped going to. JCPenney was a big one that we continued to go to because they had black salespeople. I remember going to Lincoln department store with my mom, and at that time, there were two water fountains. They were side by side. People may have heard of those, but I saw those. One was a ceramic type water fountain, and next to it was a metal air-cooled or air-conditioned cold water type. And, well, you know the story of that. Except when I went with my mom stood in front of the porcelain water fountain and told me to go ahead and drink out of the other. And I did. And she said, get out of your water yet. I said, okay, let's go. So his parents that protested quietly. We were all, law abiding, but strange things had happened when I was even younger, where I found out my parents had to pay the road. Back then that was called poll tax. And first time Jim Crow really hit me in the face, I think I was maybe 8th, 3rd grade, and we were standing on our porch waiting for our aunt to pick us up to go to church, and this school bus type bus rolling past our front door. And on the side of that particular bus it said Thomas Road Baptist Church. And I asked my mother, well, can we get a ride to church? And then she explained to me, well, no, because that is not for us. That was my introduction to the Falwell family of Central Virginia. Cherry Falwell, the largest racist segregationist in the history of Virginia. That was Christian. And so he went on to build Liberty University, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that. That would be a negative discussion for hours. But, so there are things that people aren't aware of that we just didn't have. Now, I mentioned swimming. By the time I was, again, 8, there was a all-black swimming pool built. But there was only one. And it was a good facility, but it was all black. So we were able to go swimming. We had athletic fields. There were multiple. We had one large athletic field, not a complex, like they had on the other side of town. And I look at it now, I just basically kind of shake my head and wonder if that's where some of the politicians today are trying to take us back to. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
You're listening to the Body Talk program on the Nostalgia Radio Network, and we have Mr. Wheeler Hughes as a guest. Wheeler, you mentioned it hit you at years old. And what what impact did that leave on you? Did you say, well, I'm just going to fall down, I'm going to retrench, or was that 8 year old mark a time period that you said, this is what I'm going to take this and run with it and make a difference, not only for myself, for my family, and for other people who look like you? What type of impression did that leave on you at 8 years old?
I wasn't sure, but once again, at 8 years old, I wasn't that smart. But I understood what she was saying, but you also have to understand that there was never any race with my parents and me, or in my neighborhood, the kids and their parents never discussed, there were discussions with parents, but they preferred to protect us from that because at that particular point in our lives, they were still in control of our lives.
Let me ask you a question here, and separate from your athletic accomplishments in high school. Academically, you were a good student, and you were a brilliant student. Don't say you weren't smart, okay? Because I pulled your report cards off the internet. But what type of courses did you take in high school?
I was in what was called at the time academic B. The difference between academic A and academic B was A, you took Latin, B, you took French. I took French for 2 years. I was a AP student in math, so when I got to, but again, my high school was grades 8 through 12. There was no junior high, it was 8 through 12. When I got to the 8th grade, I was in Algebra 1. Then in Algebra 2, my sophomore year, I took trigonometry. And my junior year, I took plain solid coordinate geometry. And then my senior year, I took mathematical analysis. So I was a decent student in math, hated chemistry, did okay in French, English, loved physics. Would tell anyone today with their kids, get your kids with capacity physics because you use it as long as you live. So I was a decent student. We operated on a number system. So our grades were reported as 98, 90, 80, 75, 86, that kind of thing. And my grade average was, for my 4 years, was a 90, which is a B plus. I was 25th in my class out of 130. There were a couple of, there was one guy on the basketball team who was 10th. He was my best friend that I met in kindergarten, and we're still friends today. So, yeah, we weren't a bunch of dummies. We went to school. Our parents made us study. This wasn't my household. This was throughout our neighborhood. And you understand, our neighborhood was built similar to fortresses. My neighborhood was called Cambridge Hill, eventually in the city of Seven Hill. And our section of town was 4 blocks north to south, 6 blocks east to west. And basically everyone in that parameters were black. So if anything happened to anyone in any corner of that particular measurement, there was always going to be some kind of support, whatever support was needed. My relatives were hunters, so they owned guns. My dad didn't. But his brother lived a block away, and his sister lived another block away. And I had a uncle who was my mom's brother who lived adjacent to my aunt, who was a block away. And the next block going down, I had my mom's mother live. So me personally was surrounded by family.
Now,
but there were also neighbors. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Weather. Go ahead, finish.
But there were also, neighbors. Everyone got along. There was always discussion, but never any real discussion of, I guess, despite this and despite that. Never came up.
Now, before we move into your college years, just mention or share with the audience maybe 2 or 3 of your high school classmates and what have they gone on to do, or are they physicians, dentists, or lawyers, attorneys, excuse me. What, just 2 or 3 of them, what are they doing?
Let's see, there was Dr. Melvin Penn, who was a tennis player, went to Johnson C. Smith college. Back then, there were no U's, there were no HBCUs, there were only HBCs. They were all colleges, they were no universities. Dr. Penn went there. I'm not sure where he went to medical school. He passed a year ago. I've got my co-owner on the basketball court, Donald Culpepper. He went to Norfolk State College, Down University. Ended up going to Detroit, Michigan, working for General Motors as a buyer, and retired there. He's now moved back to Lynchburg. My best friend out of high school was Lawrence Jefferson. He now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, but still has a home in Lynchburg. He went to McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota. I got just one little note on the basketball thing that 9 out of the 12 of us received some type of scholarship after our 1966 season. I was the only one that was Division I. So everyone had opportunities to move up and out of Lynchburg if they chose to.
Now let's move into your college years. Now you went to college really close to home, and where did you go to college, Will? It was close.
Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas, which is fairly close. It's only about 1,800 miles from my home.
Yeah, it's around the corner. It's a long corner from Lynchburg to Kansas State University, and like you said, you were the only Division I recruit, and you made it more so on 2 issues. One, academically you were well qualified, and athletically. And I'm not trying to, limit your conversation here. What was it like leaving Lynchburg, Virginia, going around the corner to Kansas State?
As you mentioned, it wasn't as hard as you would think. And it goes back to my parents once again, and I'll go quickly on this. My dad worked for the railroad. And then for the summer, my mom and I, because my dad had to work. My mom and I, we go on the train, we go to Washington, D.C. and hang out with some family friends there. Or we go to New York City and spend time with my uncle who passed his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. Or we go to Philadelphia and spend time with the family that the lady my mom met in beauty school when she was in Philadelphia. So we've done some traveling. I traveled south to Charlotte, North Carolina, over to Belmont, North Carolina, where we had relatives there. So going to Kansas State was odd too, because I went there with a sling with my left arm because I had shoulder surgery for cardiac dislocation 2 weeks before having to leave for Manhattan Care. So with my parents, my mom, my dad, and I, we got on the train, we packed my truck, we never shipped out prior, and we got on the train and headed west, over to St. Louis, where we had to change trains from Kansas City. I'm sorry, from St. Louis to Kansas City. And when we got to Kansas City, we were met there by Coach Bill Rutledge, who had driven over, picked us up, and then drove over to Manhattan, Kansas, from there, which is an additional, I don't think, I least 100 miles west of Kansas City on Interstate 70.
Now, what was Manhattan, Kansas like? Was that comparable in size to Lynchburg? I know they don't have, if nobody in the audience has ever been to Lynchburg, it is a beautiful city, especially if you go to the parks or baseball fields, you see the red clay dirt. But was Manhattan, Kansas the size of Lynchburg? Was it racially divided at the time? Or what was your life like there in Manhattan? Not New York, but Manhattan, Kansas. Hello?
Statistics, it's going to be smaller than Lynchburg.
Mm-hmm.
Manhattan was basically a college town. It was situated about 15 miles east of Fort Riley, Kansas, which is an enormous military installation. But Manhattan, Kansas is basically Kansas State University. It's a little downtown area with a movie theater, some pubs, restaurant or two. But that was kind of it. The campus was the whole town. There was a downtown area. Nobody could go downtown. There was really nothing downtown Manhattan for college students. Everything was around campus and right off the campus. There was a little area called Aggieville because Kansas State used to be the Aggies. Kansas State is a land grant, the first land grant college to actually move to operation. It wasn't the first land grant college, but the first one to be in operation. When I got there, they had there were three black players on the team at the time. They had at least two black players that were college All-Americans, Bob Boozer and Willie Morrell. And I got to know Bob Boozer later on in life. But small town, I knew where going. I knew it wasn't a school that the school population was somewhere around 10 to 9 to 11,000 students. It wasn't like University of Michigan with 35 to 45 students at that time. And I wasn't looking for anything that particular large because I was coming from a very large urban area and didn't feel that there was suit. It took me at the time, but I did feel that Manhattan would be okay for me personally based on where I was coming from.
Now, during your tenure at K-State, did the coach help you or assist you with the transition into college?
They did. Coach Goodrich, who was back then, because she played freshman ball in your freshman year, and then you go on the varsity in your last year. Coach Goodrich, very helpful. Always consulted me in regards to how my folks were doing, how I was doing. Tex Winter, he and I got along. He was really helpful to my game and to moving to another level of things that I wasn't aware of. Offensively, Tex Winter was the father of the triangle offense, which he carried into the NBA with the Chicago Bulls and with the Los Angeles Lakers. But after my sophomore year, Tex Winter disappeared. And we didn't know why or where. We found out that I think he gone to Long Beach State or something. But in doing so, they made Cotton Fitzsimmons the head coach. Cotton Fitzsimmons and I didn't get along at all. And not that it was just me, it was anyone that he didn't recruit. Basically, the first thing that happened to me by him, which was my junior year, when he brought in his recruits, was he took my number, which was 22 at the time, and gave it to one of his recruits. So my last 2 years, my number was 30 and 31. Away uniforms were odd, home uniforms were even. But that was the first thing, was I lost my original number of 22 because of him. Don't really want to dwell on him a lot, other than saying the evening before the NBA draft, my senior year, he called me into his office to let me know that I probably wouldn't get um, drafted into the NBA because the NBA was becoming too black. Basically, what that meant was he wasn't going to market me to the NBA. And he is all of the same in all of the professional sports. If you're not a bona fide superstar, then your coaches have to market you to these particular leagues, whether it's football, baseball, or basketball. And so basically, that's what happened with the coaching situation at Kansas State.
And you're listening to the Body Talk program on North Side Radio Network. We have Mr. Wheeler Hughes here. One of the things, and Wheeler, I'm not going to dwell on the Cotton Fitzsimmons story because you shared some things with me about him. But the one thing I will share with the listeners is that there was a gentleman on an opposing team by the name of Garfield Hurd, and he was a prolific scorer. And there was a gentleman that guarded Garfield Hurd, I think about 3 or 4 times, Wheeler, during your career. And you shut one of the top scorers down in the country. And it was a shame that the coach wouldn't market you to move on to the next level. Now, when you were at K-State, what was your major? Hello?
Also general science, so I have a minor degree in general science. I've taught science classes at the high school level. But when I went there, I was going to be a biology major. High sky, all of that. The key to that is we practice from 2 o'clock to 5, 6 o'clock. Then, of course, you had to have dinner, you had to study, and then you had classes in the morning. Time ran out. I didn't have time to focus on the studies that I needed to focus on for that biology base, so I just switched down. I took all of the classes. I had physiology, I had human anatomy. But back then, all the classes they weren't separate. They were taken with. I took classes with med students and veterinary medical students. So the curves were higher in those. I had philology, I had kinesiology. So I had all of the courses that I would have taken as a biology major, but not all of the courses. I didn't have the biochem, the chemistries, those kinds of things that were taken more of my time to be proficient in. Just wasn't any time.
So you received your degree, you received, 3 letters from K-State, meaning athletic letters. And what was your first professional job that you had when you graduated from K-State?
When I graduated from K-State, I was a school teacher. Moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and was a teacher at Bryan Junior Senior High. And ended up doing that for 3 years. Of course, realizing that, back then, like today, teachers made no money. I had to do something else. So I began to look around and ended up getting into a number of sales positions, trying to find out what was good. And then it took until about 1985, 1986, when I got involved in managed healthcare with the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska HMO, that I found and felt unbelievably comfortable in doing what we were doing, which was going out, targeted physician outreach clinics, and putting together networks of healthcare providers. So it took a while for me to get where I should have been, but I finally got there.
I'm going to ask it's a direct question. Did your family in Lynchburg, would you consider your family rich, middle class, or I don't want to use the term poor, but a little bit above poor? Which,
Basically, we were considered black middle class.
okay.
Like poor black middle class. My mom had her own business. She was a beautician. She had the beauty nook up on Fifth Street with another neighbor. And my dad worked for the Southern Railroad until he retired. So both parents worked. We had two incomes. I don't know what those incomes were. They didn't talk to me about finances. But all I knew is that, and I'm going to be a little off topic, but I've been questioned by a number of individuals as to why I didn't go to an HBCU. And of course, my first response is there were no U's, there were only HBCs. And secondly, they couldn't afford me. That sounds a little arrogant, but it's not. If I would have gone to, for example, Morgan State, I would have lived in someone's basement. I would have had a job. I would have had classes to go to. And I would have had practice to attend. I would have Kansas State, room and board, books, all paid. My parents really wouldn't complain because after I left town, they spent time going to Atlantic City, having a good time. It was very good with them because they had saved money for me to go to school, but they didn't need to use any of that. No, this wasn't a huge sum. This wasn't tens of thousands of dollars. This wasn't, I don't know if they were even 5 digits. But what I did was best for me and for everybody close to me.
So in 1966, as it is somewhat today for some college-bound students who are not athletes, you make financial decisions to attend school, and you made a decision that benefited your family financially in 1966, and you academically, because like you said, if you would have went to an HBC, you would have, like Morgan State as an example, or even possibly Howard, you would have had to live in somebody's basement, have a part-time job, and go to class, go to practice, and et cetera, et cetera. See, one of the things I hope that parents who are listening who have athletes in their family, may they be male or female, understand that you're a commodity. That child is a commodity. And that kid, that boy or young lady, has to make the best decision academically for themselves and financially for their family. Another Wheeler, let's dwell into another not another topic, but somewhat related. In 1966, high school, right?
Yes.
And you know what I call you when I write you sometimes. I call you Mr. Hoff. And if you share with the audience what you made the Hall of Fame, and where did you make the Hall of Fame?
This was in 2020. I had received a message from the VIA, which was at that time the segregated basketball and athletic conference, that I was going to be inducted to their Hall of Fame. And I think probably a couple of months following that, I also received a phone call from the VHSL, which is the Virginia High School League, and I wasn't quite sure what that was about. And the young lady on the phone said, "We're contacting you to let you know that you've been selected to be inducted to the Virginia High School Hall of Fame," which was not all black. And that it's going to be done. So in 1 year, 2020, I was added to 2 separate Hall of Fames. The first again in my high school to go with the Virginia High School Hall of Fame because that's an organization that was separate from the segregated system. And I don't even know if it was back in existence in '66. But a person that tried to get me into the VHS Hall of Fame several years before, and I wasn't accepted, and I found out I wasn't accepted because the person that tried to get me in didn't pay a specific person with the VHL staff money to get me in. This particular situation was corrected, and during the ceremonies for me going into the Virginia High School Hall of Fame, those directors that ran that committee, the administrators, that all came up and apologized to me and saying that this has been too long coming. This should have been done years and years ago, and we want to apologize for that. Because I understood the situation that had happened. But it was good. Granddaughter, daughter, wife, we all went down. It was a great day. Teammates and friends from Lynchburg drove up to Charlottesville for that presentation. It was a great day.
And you mentioned something earlier before we wrap up here. Lynchburg, or your experience during the Jim Crow era, you said you somewhat see it now or coming back in certain areas. And I'm just going to use a bogus state called Florida. From what you experience from race relations, would you say it's better, the same, or has it gotten worse?
You would then compared to today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, well, compared to this day, if I go 8, 9 years backwards, it would have been better. But since they introduced the orange card as president, things have gotten worse. Simply because he has okayed the Klan, the Proud Boys, all of those fringe organizations. And now it appears as though a good portion of the House of Representatives are going along with them because they're not really concerned with America, they're concerned with putting money in their pockets and keeping their jobs as senators, congressmen. I feel less protected today than I did in 1966. Let's put it that way.
And we're gonna leave the audience on a high note. And do you remember a golf course by the name of Windsor Park?
Yeah.
It was in Jacksonville, Florida, and beautiful track, as golfers call it. And one thing that Wheeler taught me, we were playing one day, and we happened to play in a foursome. They put us with 2 other guys, and you had this driver that had a green head and a green shaft. And like I said earlier, you almost became a scratch golfer, but you kept playing with me. So Wheeler would hit this ball dead center down the fairway, 280, 300 yards. First 2, 3, 4 holes, whatever. One of the other guys in the group, white gentleman, said, he said, "Can I look at your driver?" And you gave it to him, and he said, "Go ahead and hit it." And he hit it in a couple holes. And I remember do you remember what you said to him, Wheeler?
What?
He said, "Nice driver." And he asked you where you got it from, some store that wasn't in Jacksonville at the time. And he said, "Well, can I buy it?" And you said, "This is America. You can buy anything from me as long as you got the right amount of money." And he pulled out the money, and if I remember correctly, he sold him the driver for $250. And he gave you the driver back, said, "Do you want to finish?" He said, "No, you just paid for it. So you can go ahead and finish with it." And what was amazing about that particular round, you played the rest of the round, not every hole called for a driver, but you played the rest of the round that the holes they did with the 3-wood. And you still beat everybody. You know, again, I finished second. But the one thing, you taught me several things. And one thing, especially when I saw you sell your driver on the golf course that day, and you made the statement to him, everything in America is for sale as long as you got the right price. The other thing that you taught me that you still say today to a degree, if you come at me, you better come right, you better come strong.
Hey.
And one thing that I'm gonna give you the last word. If you, we're friends, close friends for life. And one thing that I admire you for, and you really, we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of some of the stories. I might have you back on sometime in the next month or two. You overcame a situation that a lot of us use as an excuse today. You know, the report cards for the public school system just came out for the state of Ohio. And what you hear the media and some administrators say is that all the poor districts did bad, they're failing. And so the association that the media and the administrators, or some of the administrators, are making is that if you come from a not so rich family, you're dumb. I never knew poor to make you dumb. And
Right.
I ask you about your family, and I'm not going to get into mine. We weren't rich. I'm not going to tell you we were poor, but we never ate with plastic spoons and knives and forks every day. We didn't eat with silver. It was stainless steel. We had Malamac dishes until whatever came out. But we weren't stupid. And when you would share with me the stories of the experiences that you had, and I looked at you and I said, this man overcame. You didn't use it as an excuse. Your parents, you use your term, shielded you. But you still could have used it as an excuse and you didn't. And you haven't. And like I said, you're humble. Yes, you worked or did some work for United Healthcare, and you helped build Region 2, which was west of Mississippi, for TRICARE. And a lot of veterans and or active duty individuals who might listen to the show or get access or have access to it will understand what that means. And you and I have what's called a kismet relationship because we did do some work together. And more so, I have the utmost respect for you and your family, for everything that all of you have done. And when you come back on, I just want you to jot this name down. I want you to talk about Linda.
Yeah, Linda Woodward.
Yeah, when,
And you know, she got a brother, Dr. Edward Barksdale, who's a leading pediatrician in Cleveland, Ohio.
at UH. At UH. And again, all three of you came from Jim Crow Lynchburg, Virginia. And all of your classmates, as you said, 9, if I remember the number, 9 out of 12 received scholarships. You were the only one in Division I. You go off to Manhattan. Maybe somebody told you were going to Manhattan, New York, but it was Manhattan, Kansas, saying it jokingly, of course. Not only did you excel athletically, you excelled academically. And that's the one thing that I'm more proud of that you've done. And it's my fault. I left the cards that I had made for you when you were selected to the Hall of Fame. And it doesn't matter what they cost. I wish I could have been there. I was so honored when you you told me you made it, and I had that picture in Boston, you know, set on a card. I don't know how many I sent you with, or it doesn't matter. If you need some more, I'll send you some more. But what's important for the audience and for me is find somebody that's an example, and don't use your current circumstances as an excuse not to excel.
Exactly.
So I thank you for your time, Mr. Hughes, and I'll have you back on probably in about 30, let's say about 30 days, give or take, and we'll talk about some other things, and maybe just not more so. We're going to talk about Linda, that'll be number one. But the other thing, because of the open, I call it open season, but it's actually open enrollment, with Medicare and the health plans coming up, a lot of individuals don't understand how important that network is. And it's people like you who negotiate those contracts that drives the premium number so that people like me or whoever can afford to go to a good physician and or hospital. So with that being said, Mr. Hughes, thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you for being a guest on Body Talk.
You bet.
Okay. Bye-bye. We're not going to take a break here. I'm going to basically, I will sign off early today so that Marie can do some reads that she normally does. I'm going to talk about, it's somewhat related to inclusion, but we have something going on in Cleveland here, and it's called PB Cleve, People's Budget Cleveland. And they work tirelessly to gather signatures on petitions so that they could put an initiative on the ballot, which is labeled Issue 38. They did receive a number called Issue 38. But I want to share something with you. Richard Starr, Ward 5 City Council member, labeled those of you starting with the 10,480 plus citizens who signed a petition to help PB Cleve make it on the ballot. Those of you who signed a petition are involved in the democratic process and are civically engaged. Something that everybody should want to do. That's your constitutional right to do that. Richard Starr, in a Instagram tweet or whatever you call those things, put out a piece of material. Do you have it up? Can you pull it up, Marie?
Yes.
Oh, please. Well,
I was, give me one quick sec. It's still uploading.
okay. Well, he developed a piece of literature. And while Marie is pulling it up, we have several factions here. We have city council and the mayor who are against People's Budget Cleveland. Now we can go back about a year where the mayor supported an initiative or pilot project, if I may. He's going to give PB Cleveland $5 million to do what they said they were going to do, and that was to involve the citizens in projects, let them identify the projects and do that and this, and they'll get done, such as maybe building a park, improving the park, helping a facility. When I say a facility, a daycare center, maybe operate 24 hours a day for people who work third shift or whatever the case might be, or maybe even bring a grocery store to a community. And there's all kind of things that can be done. When I say things, projects. Let me be nice here. One of the things that going on in Cleveland, we have we're the county seat, County, but we have one of the lowest voter turnouts in the county. We had the lowest voter turnout in the most recent election in August for issue 1. The lowest. But we happen to be the largest city in the county. 380,000, 349,000, and shrinking. We're the largest city, but we have the lowest voter turnout. Therefore, you would think people who want to be civically engaged would be encouraged to do that. Let me know when you have it ready to go.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. If you can put it on the screen, I hope everybody can see it. It's okay that you can be opposed to an initiative and you can support an initiative. You can be opposed to one candidate and support another candidate. That's all right. That's called democracy. You can do that. That's your right. If you can't read it, he's opposed to it. That's fine. That's his right not to support it. He doesn't have to support it. What is bad about what he put on that piece of literature, everybody who signed that petition and or who believe and support PB Cleveland, the 10,400 members or citizens and those who are picking up steam, he called all of you poverty pimps.
Oh,
It's at the bottom of that literature. He called us poverty pimps. And I say us because I'm a citizen of Cleveland and I signed the petition. Well, first off, let me help Mr. Starr out, and I'm going to call him Starr. I'm not going to call him Mr. because he doesn't warrant it. All right? First, let me help him out with some English. A pimp traditionally is or was a man, but a pimp today is a man or a woman that controls a group of women and or men, prostitutes, and arranges clients for them, taking part of their earnings in return. Well, first off, I'm not a damn pimp. And the people who signed that petition, the majority of them, they're not pimps either. They're taking nothing. Nothing. The only thing they're taking is their right to be civically civically engaged. That's what they're taking back. That's what a pimp is. In essence, you're the pimp, Star, because you're taking an opportunity away from people and going to give it to somebody else. I hope everybody who lives in Ward 5 gets a copy and you distribute this. He called the citizens of Cleveland who were involved, democratically involved, and civically involved, pimps, a poverty pimp. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, as I said earlier, I tain't rich, but I tain't poor, and I'm not on poverty. Now, I'm sure some people who signed the petitions based upon the new federal standard of federal guidelines of poverty might be poverty stricken. And let's be fair here, Cleveland is the most broke-ass, poverty-stricken urban city in America. So all of you out here, I hope you're just as angry as I am and disappointed. I'm more so angry because I don't know him and I really don't want to know him. I do have some expectations of elected people. I decline to use the term officials, and if you listen to this show long enough, I'm not going to ever use the term official because they taint official, all right? When you have elected people, there's two things, actually three, but there's two primary things you want from them, and you want intelligence. And there's two levels of intelligence, or two types of intelligence. The first one is self-explanatory. You want intellectual intelligence. Somebody who has the ability to think and process. Somebody who can read and comprehend. Now, that doesn't mean you got to have some bachelor's degree, master's degree, a postgraduate degree, or a terminal degree. That's PhD, JD, and whatever else might be out there that's higher. You just want somebody who can think. The other, probably most critical one, It's called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence deals with how you respond to things, not react. What you say, how you write, how you interact with people. This boy called us pimps, poverty pimps. I will say this for the PB Cleveland people. The majority of them are volunteers. They're volunteers. They're comprised of black, white, brown folks. Some professional, some blue collar. Some preachers, some pastors, some ministers, some attorneys. They're volunteers. They're not getting paid. They're not pimping anybody. Yeah, he might take it down, but it's too late because it's been distributed. He lacks the emotional intelligence to hold office because when he calls his residents, he called the citizens of Cleveland poverty pimps. Let's do a short analogy here. I have nothing against wealthy people. Nothing. As long as you make your money ethically, legally, and morally. If it's made, it's made. Maybe you had an idea to create water. That makes you wealthy. Okay? I have nothing against the Dan Gilberts, the Haslams of the world, or any other developer. But when they come to city council and ask, well, we want tax abatement and we also want funding for certain projects. Who's pimping who? Does that make them the pimp or you the pimp? Well, we could argue that if you go back to the definition. Especially when you give it away. Because now you're giving something away that belongs to the citizens. Let me make a quick observation here. You know why people speak up? It's their right to go to a meeting, a ward meeting, a council meeting, a committee meeting, a press conference, and ask questions. You ask questions for clarity. You ask questions for information so that you can make a decision. But guess what? I live in a ward where we have a council boy who won't even return phone calls. He won't even answer questions in a ward meeting. He won't even schedule the people who the citizens, the residents request. We're still waiting to have the city prosecutor come out to Ward 1, I call it affectionately Ward 0, come out to Ward 1 to talk about physical assaults, sexual assaults, and other issues. He canceled her. And I asked him on 3 separate occasions. He lacks not only the intellectual intelligence, he lacks the emotional intelligence. He turned his back and walked away, waved his hand, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of women, waved his hand like a little freaking girl. Ward 1, name is Joe Jones.
Yes.
Pay attention. There's a current underfoot here in Cleveland. The citizens, and I'm not involved in this woke thing, there's citizens in the city of Cleveland who are awake now because they see their circumstances are not changing. I'm going to use some words from a former president, President Ronald Reagan. He said it when he was running for office. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the majority of Cleveland citizens say, hell to the never no. You got people just sitting, doing nothing, who are supposed to represent you. And if they don't speak up for you, they're not representing you or us. Because I happen to be a city resident. And I'm going to repeat it again. I am not a poverty pimp. I can go get a job. I'm retired. I was blessed. I can go do anything I want to do. I held one of the highest security clearances in the government. And I know some people on council can't get that because they got federal damn records. I worked at one of the big three firms. I'm not a poverty pimp, and people that I know who are associated with PB Cleveland, they are not poverty pimps. They work. They are retired. Some of them are retired. Some of them are former military members. So you call them poverty pimps? How dare you? Just be ashamed of yourself. The other issue, since we on city council, our city council president tried to sneak an emergency ordinance so that the city, your money, our money, my money, be selfish here, our money, was going to fund an effort to fight PB Cleveland. Well, if that ain't about a trip. Well, there's a fund in city council called the Leadership Fund. It's a PAC, Political Action Committee. It's a fund. It has money in it. Take the money out of your PAC and fight it. Wow. Go to your other 16 buddies, right, and say, hey, we got, I think it's about $365,000 in the fund. Take that money out of there and you fight it. If this is city council, you fight it. Like I said, it's no problem. I don't have a problem with anybody saying I don't support something. Yeah. I support this candidate. I do support something. I don't support that candidate. But you don't have to call anybody a name. That shows you're scared.
And lack of maturity.
Yeah, lack of character. This lack of character, lack of maturity, and lack of intelligence. Oh, also on that piece of literature, I don't know if it's still up. I see y'all on 26. That's when the city council members are going to debate the PB people. There's two individuals from each side. Now, I want everybody to understand something. I made this comment about a month ago. I generally don't tell people who to vote for. I don't tell people what to vote for. Who and what. I only suggest, I highly recommend that you go out there and do your own homework, do your own research. Don't you dare have one body from one side come in and say this, that, and the other, and you don't invite the other side in. Because I'm sure somewhere, maybe your parents, your grandparents, your auntie, or whoever, told you there's two sides to every coin. You hear one side, you better flip it over and hear the other side. Don't have somebody come in your house. I don't care if it's a councilman or you go to me. Well, I don't think PB Cleveland is really good because it's going to bankrupt the city. Have he or she explain budget to you. 2%. And that 2% doesn't take effect year one or year two. 2% of the general fund. That leaves 98%. Ask them where the other 98% is spent. And then you make your decision, well, wait a minute. 2%, that's really nothing. That's like 2 cents out of every dollar. Where's the other 98 cents going? And if they cannot explain that to you, you know what you should tell them to do? Put my water glass down, or if we're in a meeting, and you should get up and walk out. Walk out. Walk away. Now, I understand if somebody can't give you the line items from line number 1 to 1,050. I don't expect anybody to be able to do that, but they should be able to explain it to you or present it to you so it's understandable and it's logical and reasonable. calling me a poverty pimp and calling my other 349,000 resident poverty pimps. I hope everybody who's eligible to vote, because not all 349,000 are eligible, because we have some people who are less than 18 years old. I hope they come out and vote. And then for lack of better terms, they own you. They own a person like Star, who called you a poverty pimp. Most of the people I live around in my community, they own their homes. They own them.
Mm-hmm.
They pay their taxes.
Yes.
When they get stopped by the police, they don't pull out a business card and say, "Do you know who I am?"
Right.
They pull out the officer says, "May I have your driver's license, please?"
Yeah, sure.
That must be part of the orientation of city council for new members. Get pulled over. Oh, when you get pulled over, first thing you should do is pull out your business card. An officer asks you for your driver's license. And then you teach them. They must take 4 or 5 days. Please learn how to say this. Do you know who I am? Oh, they go to restaurants and walk out. Don't pay. Some of them don't pay. Do you know who I am? Yeah, I know who you are. You somebody who don't pay the damn bill. Dash and dine is what we used to call it. Yeah, I know some of them down there have used that city credit card to buy their family personal computers. You ain't supposed to do that. Yeah, a lot of folks down there lack the intellectual intelligence, the emotional intelligence, which shows they don't have the character and integrity to represent you. And I'm going to harp on it until I sign off here. Nobody in this city is a poverty pimp. That's insultive. That's degrading. If you're married or you have a girlfriend, so you pimping her, she's also a poverty pimp. Why don't you just call the females poverty queens? Not every woman in this city is on poverty or on welfare. That's a shame. If you go to the PB Cleveland website, they have what I call, and what I deem, a clean piece of literature. It doesn't call city council names. It doesn't make fun of the mayor. It just gives you information and it says vote yes. Nothing at the bottom, nothing at the front, the top, and nothing at the middle. No, people or individuals such as Star, they give politics a dirty name. That's what makes it nasty, filthy. This all you have to do is make your point, be truthful, and go on. You go from door to door, voter to voter, or whatever. Star, when you knock on somebody's door, or you're on the radio, or you're whatever, please introduce yourself and say, "I'm speaking to all the poverty pimps." I bet you that damn phone line will light up. When I say it dirty, politician is just a name, or politics is an operational term. Politician is somebody who was elected to hold an office. Politics has become filthy. You have people in this city who run for office who make up endorsements to mislead the voters. I was endorsed by the union. I was endorsed by God. I was endorsed by... Give me a damn break.
Right.
You call those entities. Well, no, we didn't endorse anybody. Well, that's not what it says on here. It's a shame. And I'm not going to change what I have said and what I will say. Your vote determines your character and integrity. If you vote for a thief and he or she wins, you elected a thief, especially if you know that going in the door. If you vote for a moron and he or she wins, guess what? You now have a moron representing you.
Period.
If you vote for somebody who assaults somebody and think they got away with it, you just elected an assaulter. Come on, people. Y'all, look, we're smarter than that. Voters, we the constituents, we the citizens have the power, not the person sitting in 601 Lakeside Avenue. Look at your community. Look at your neighborhoods. I'm encouraging whatever is on the ballot. If you decide to vote yes, that's your right. If you decide to vote no, that's your right. There's 3 issues on this ballot. One's the abortion topic. One is the recreational marijuana or weed law, if I may, and the other one is PB Cleveland. And there's some seats up, more so muni judges. Okay, go vote. Don't step back. If you drive by the voting or the polling place, or you don't mail in your ballot, you can still complain. But in essence, you're complaining about yourself because you didn't stand up and voice your concern. Vote for somebody who is going to respect you, who's going to represent you. The most important thing is to be respected. You don't have to be liked. You don't. But you want to be respected. Who cares if somebody kisses every senior old woman on the cheek? I hope she or they go home and wash their face or got some hand sanitizer they can rub it on their face. You don't want that. Well, he liked me. But does he respect you? Because if you respect somebody, you can generally represent somebody. It's people who like folks, well, do I like him or her more? And you go right down the road. There were people in this city, and I'm going to say your grandparents, your great-grandparents, maybe your parents, more so the grandparents and great-grandparents, great-uncles or whatever, they struggled for you, for us to vote.
Yes.
They died for us to vote if they lived in the South. You just heard Mr. Hughes. They had to pay, his parents had to pay a poll tax to vote. I don't want to hear that stuff, well, it's voter suppression. You know what? That's true. In some way, somebody's always going to suppress something that you want to do. But if you show up at the polls and they say, well, okay, you got your driver's license, you need to go home and get your utility bill. If you really want to vote, you'll go home and get the utility bill. And come back and vote. We got to stop being a culture of excuses. We are proud, intelligent people. Take back what's ours. And I'm sorry, I'll be damned. I don't want anybody representing me that's gonna call me or anybody else a poverty pimp.
Okay.
If or when, and more so when, PB Cleveland passes, I want you to keep this in mind, and it's okay. You can have 17 people. There's 17 council members in the city of Cleveland. All 17 of them, they're right not to support PB Cleveland. That's their right. But I want you to remember what they don't support, what they did and didn't do for you come 25. What somebody won't do for you today, they sure in the hell ain't gonna do it for you tomorrow. And before I wrap up, I'm gonna share this with you. Yeah, I ran for office. I ran. I was endorsed by the Plain Dealer. I made the forum page on Sunday, August the 3rd. And my phone was ringing like crazy. I didn't know. And a councilman called me. He called me. And when I somewhat imitated him, you'll know who it is. Hey brother, you killed him. I listened to the interview, and man, it's obvious you're smart. You know, you're more intelligent than Joe. You know, I look forward for you to coming down here. I listened to him for about 5-6 minutes, and he presented his resume to me. It's on Sunday. I won't forget it because that's my older brother's birthday, who's deceased. But he went on for about 10-15 minutes, and I asked him one simple question: are you going to support me? Well, brother, I can't do that because he's one of my colleagues. And I said, do you know what a colleague is? Can you define that for me? Well, that's somebody who down here with me. I said, no, a colleague is somebody who's like-minded in practice that you do. So that means if this person is a thief or an assaulter, that means you are a thief and assaulter. That person is not my colleague. They just happen to have the same position title that I have. What's that guy, the congressman from New York, George Santos? He's not one of the Republican colleagues. They ostracize his butt. They don't consider him a colleague. He's not on any committees. And it's kind of sad. He's just there collecting the check, as my grandmother would say. Nothing. The only thing he can do is vote on the floor. He's really not a colleague. So, to start, I hope you classify yourself as a poverty pimp too. Because that's what you called everybody else in the city of Cleveland. Wow. A poverty pimp. Everybody has certain values. That doesn't make you any better, or me any worse, or me any better than you. Your values establish your character. Your character is what people see. Your integrity is what people don't see. Where I come from, the way I was reared, you don't steal, you don't lie, you don't hit people unless you're defending yourself. There are several people in my life, as I have shared with you, your experiences make you who you are. And the majority of us have had good experiences in life. Some of us have had terrible experiences. Some women have been assaulted out here. Some people have had their homes broken into. Some people have lost family members. Through homicide, etc. You see who they are publicly, and then when you hear what they are, that's their integrity. Now, I'm going to back up for a minute. I talked about there's certain expectations you have of people. When you elect a person to office, you want that person. I want that person to be honest, to be truthful. They have a good character. I want that person to be an individual of integrity. I shared with you, I work for a big 3 firm. And I put morals clauses in every contract with every client. And one of the clauses said is certain words or language we will not use while on the site, the client site. We're not going to curse. We're not going to use the N-word. We're not going to call people the D's or whatever. It's sir, ma'am, mister, whatever, if you give me permission or the consultant to call you by your first name. That's what they would do. And it was reciprocated. I had a client in Jacksonville, Florida. The Cleveland Clinic of Jacksonville, not the Cleveland Clinic, but the hospital system. It was Baptist hospital system. And I had a young lady working at one of the sites during assessments. And in a meeting, the manager called her the B word. Black girl, who was a consultant, called a B. By a white woman, could have been a black woman, but didn't matter. Young lady called me. I left the main hospital, drove to the site, talked to her. I said, were you the only one in the room? She said, no. I said, well, this lady was here, this lady was here. Grabbed them, they said, yes, she did that. We were surprised, we were appalled. I said, okay. I said, let's go. Took the young lady off the site, took her back to the main hospital. I said, you can go back to the hotel, do whatever you need to do, get yourself together. And ironically, I had a meeting the next day with my internal client, who happened to be the CEO of the hospital. And that night, I pulled up the contract, looked at the page, looked at the clause, what the moral clause was written, language, wrote it down, wrote a termination letter, put the letter in my suit. That next morning, go to my meeting. Walk into his office, he greets me just like I greet him. Hey Al, how you doing? Hey Hugh. His name is Hugh Green. And he said, how things going? I said, well, before we get to that, we got to talk about something else. And he said, well, what's that? I said, well, this particular yesterday, and I didn't say on yesterday, I can say that as Southern speak. I said, yesterday, I had a consultant at so-and-so site, and she was in a meeting, and your manager called her the B. And he started laughing. I said, you think that's funny? He said, well, that's not a big deal. I said, it is a big deal. I reached in my pocket, took out the envelope and handed it to him. He said, what's this? I said, you need to read it. I said, effective this date, that was that day, the contract was terminated because of violation of the morals clause. And he said, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can, because you signed the contract, and that's one of the conditions in the contract, and you think it's funny. I don't think it's funny. I'm not gonna expose women on this project and the men to being called out their name, and you sit here and laugh. Turned it. Done. A friend of mine says it best. When you vote for somebody, you're giving them a job. They're supposed to be working for you, not working for themselves. They're not supposed to be calling you names. You're not a poverty pimp. The majority of people in this town happen to be black. You're not nobody, black, white, brown, red, whatever. You're not a poverty pimp. Do not let him nor anybody else call you what you are not. You better stand up and represent yourself. So when it comes time to vote, again, you can vote for issue 38, you can vote against issue 38. But more importantly, come 25, he better be looking for a job. Meaning Star. Star better be looking for a job. And don't accept no apology, because see, something I learned many, many moons ago what comes out your mouth is what you really think. So to the rest of my proud, intelligent citizens of Cleveland, you can look his phone number up, you can look his email up, and you call him and say, you know what? I'm not a party pimp, but I'm going to remember what you said. So I thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Has trauma happened to you or your family? Trauma can affect all parts of your life, sometimes ways you can't see. Trauma can affect the way you eat, sleep, and cause you to lose focus, feel angry, afraid, or even use drugs or drinking as a way to escape. But we're here to tell you that trauma doesn't have to keep hurting, and you can change your life starting now with help from the Trauma Recovery Center. We want you to take control of your life. Today can be the day. The Trauma Recovery Center offers real help for real needs in real time. They offer services for food, clothes, safety, emotional support, and a whole lot more. So do not let violence control you. You can break free, and TRC can help. Give them a call at 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They are free, 24/7, and confidential. They can give you the tools to rebuild your life and your health. Call today, 216-644-5487. They offer real help for real needs in real time. And again, they can give you the tools to rebuild your life and your health. Call today, 216-644-5487. The Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children. And you guys, also, I would like to welcome on board. I would like to welcome on board the dedicated senior medical centers of Ohio, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. Shout out to Ray and Irma at the dedicated senior centers. We will be announcing a more in more in-depth information as far as our partnership, in the future and the things that we'll be doing moving forward. But we just like to welcome them on board to the family. And, on a personal note, I've had some experience with the dedicated senior medical centers. I used to drive Lyft, and in driving Lyft, I had, of course, customers that were coming from those facilities. The one on East 152nd and St. Clair, the one on Libby and Lee in Maple Heights, and of course the one in West Park on Lorraine, West 140th, and on Lorraine, not in Lorraine, Ohio, on Lorraine. So the one thing for certain is that when they left out of there, they felt amazing. They felt amazing about the care they received, about the attention they received, about the help that they'll be continuously receiving from the dedicated senior medical centers. They feel secure with their doctors. As melanated people, whether it be Black or Latino, they feel like they have a connection with their doctors, and their doctors spend time with them. They get preventive care, not treated care. And then there are extra perks in, being a part of it. You have to be 55 and over, but you don't have to be covered by Medicaid. If you're not covered, they will still treat you. The services are free. They help with things like insurance fraud, because a lot of elderly people do come across insurance fraud, even with the AARP programs. Excuse me for saying it, but I found out so much in how they were being coerced into signing into other programs that do not benefit what they need in life as far as healthcare and beyond. And the dedicated senior medical centers of Ohio, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic are all about that. So shout out to Dr. Chen, who is the founder and CEO of the dedicated senior medical centers. And to, like I said, Ray and Irma over the facilities, and everyone that works over there. Like, you guys, listen, if you want to be taken care of 360, like all around. Like, go check them out. It does not hurt. It does not cost a thing. And there's so many other benefits outside of receiving wonderful health care. They have things like their own, of course, their own clinics in the building. They have their own pharmacy, so you don't have to travel or wait, to receive your prescriptions. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to try. It's free and it's there for you. And, nowadays we are in the process of dealing with unfair health care, not being adequately treated, not being equally treated, not being treated according to who we are, because you can't just generally treat people medically. According to race, there are certain things that are more in us than others, and so they they zoom in, they lock in on that, and they treat you accordingly. They treat you good. And they're about preventive care, not just treatment. They're about preventive care. And that's important because when we go to the doctor nowadays, we just get treated. Oh, we're going to help you maintain your diabetes, or we're going to help you, maintain whatever you're going through. It's not that we're trying to solve or have preventive care, if we see it coming, if they see it's coming, excuse me, I'm a part of it now. So, the we is, kind of a thing. But, when we see preventive care and things that can be treated ahead of time, they do that. So the dedicated senior medical centers, there are 3 locations: 152nd in St. Clair, Lee and Libby Road in Maple Heights, and West Park on Lorraine Avenue and West 140th over there in that plaza. You guys are across from the Wendy's. So listen, 216 336 6069 is the office number here at No Static Radio. If you have any questions, please feel free to call. We'll be posting soon, and we'll have other graphics up so that you guys can contact us or contact them in order to get in contact with them. And yeah, I normally have a 365 moment for Black History, but this is really important. Our healthcare is really important. How we get treated and better treatment is really important. And that's what the dedicated senior medical centers are all about. So you guys, thank you so much for listening to Body Talk, a program for your mind, your body, and your soul with host Al Bridges. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you for tuning in. Well, good luck with your husband. I hope it gets